Super Rugby Pacific round 4. That's right. It is going to be another weekend full of games which could be potentially season defining for a couple of these teams. We're going to go through key players, what those substitutions mean, who is in, who is out, what they mean for the tactical side of the game, and we're going to go through little predictions, quick predictions as well for each game. And we're going to get into it straight away.
We saw that in the Ireland test, we saw that in the England test. It was a really tight game. And so I'll whack it up there it is. Now there's a little bit of chat about the fact that if you need to get creative, like get scribe, you know the rest.
First up, we have the Blues hosting the Brumbies in Auckland, and it is going to be an absolute another doozy like it was between the Brumbies and the Chiefs last week. For the Brumbies, they've made some clear changes to their roster to be able to bulk the pack up. So Tom Hooper comes back into 6. Lockie Shaw goes into the second row with Caden Neville shifting into onto the bench for that cover for the second row there. We've got Luke Reimer on the bench as well to be able to come back and be that impact player at the breakdown, which will be key to slowing down the Blues ball there in later stages of the game. We've got Lockie Lonergan shifting up to number 2 in the starting hooking position with Billy Pollard shifting back to the bench. Feitoika is also on the bench, so he's an experienced campaigner and a sizable prop as well. And in the back line, we've got David Feluai at 12, which is going to give the overall look of the Brumbies backline a little bit more punch, a little bit more size and physicality, which was that perhaps they were lacking last weekend against the Chiefs, and perhaps was the difference between the two sides. Still no Noah Loloseo, with Declan Meredith still staying at 10. Stephen Larkin putting big faith in the young gun, and not the youngest, he's 24, 25, but you've got the experience of Jack Debrasini on the bench. So we'll see how that goes for the Brumbies this week. And for the Blues, they're a pretty relatively settled side, apart from having to shift around the back row to accustom for the fact that Hoskins Sotutu is out with suspension for a couple of weeks at least. And then the biggest headline of them all is Beauden Barrett shifting from fullback to number 10 and Harry Plummer shifting to the bench. I'm unsure what this move is saying, because I don't know if it's just rotation of minutes perhaps to manage Harry Plummer so he's not burning out early in the season. It's been a pretty tough run for the Blues, who've had the toughest run of any side. But it is interesting considering the fact that I don't think they've been losing because Plummer's been a 10 and Beauden Barrett's been a 15. I think it has been a whole team aspect that has been slightly wrong, and a lot of the All Blacks players just not quite being up to speed with the detail and the game plan of what Vern Cotter is wanting to run after their All Blacks rest after the November series. So that's pretty interesting. They've got a bit of experience on the bench with Offatua and Afasi shifting to the back there on the front row to sit there on the pine. So it'll be an interesting game, but I think for my prediction, I do think that the Brumbies do have an opportunity if they stick to the same game plan that they stuck with execution-wise last week with a few alterations. They're not going to be able to find as much space on the wings, and they're going to have to be equally as direct as they were with the Chiefs. But if they bring that intensity, we saw what that did to the Blues side early in the tournament against the Chiefs. So if the Brumbies can bring that same intensity, then I don't see why not the Brumbies can't cause an upset. But it is going to have to be a full 23-man game day squad from the Brumbies, especially now that they've seen some boosts in physicality come back into the side. I think that'll help them greatly. The Drua hosting the Chiefs is the next game, and there's actually only one game on the Friday this time. So this is the Saturday game kicking off at 2:35 local Sydney time, that is. And then we're going to be looking at the Drua first, where they welcome back the absolute speedster and excitement machine, Celestino Ravatalmanda on the wing. He is an absolute gun, and he always gets the crowd on their feet. You've got Lamani shifting back to number 9, partnering a very, very promising young number 10 in Isaiah Armstrong Ravula there, who has been the better out of him and the experienced campaigner in Caleb Muntz, 2 shifts back to the bench, I believe. Or maybe he's actually out. No, I think that they've left him out. Yeah. And then for the rest of the forwards, you've got the hooker kind of very shifting to the second. He's playing second fiddle this weekend, so he's going to be on the bench. And then you've got Tongitama, the number 2 starting there. And then you've also got the Reds recruit, who is Fijian and Fijian heritage, Fijian boy, Petty Revi, in the 18 jersey. So he's going to bring a lot of punch and a lot of experience to that front row. Now for the Chiefs, you're looking at no D-Mac. Unfortunately, he's still injured with that knee, but it is better news for Chiefs supporters because they don't believe it's as bad as originally feared, but it did look nasty when his leg went into that hyperextension when Anton Leonard-Brown fell on it late in the game. You've got Josh Jacob there at 10, and the rest of the side is looking like a little bit of a mix-up, actually, because they're not putting out their absolute strongest side, but they have got some depth across the entire 23-man squad, and you've got an exciting young player in Malachi Rampling in the 21 jersey. So he is a back row player. He played number 8 for the under-20s in the World Cup, in South Africa, the World Championship competition there, a couple of years running. So that's a really excited young talent that's coming through. And I think overall it's going to be interesting to see because they're going with a 6-2 split for backs and forwards to see how that feeds into that. Maybe that's considering the weather and how hot and humid it's going to be in Fiji. So they're just planning for the exhaustion to hit them there. As far as a prediction goes, I think that the Chiefs have not sent their strongest side necessarily. I think the vice versa, the Drua are desperate to get a win on the board, seeing as they're still running as winless, having lost that initial game against the Brumbies at home. So this is another home fixture, and I'd be reticent to tip against the Drua, so I think that they will take this one at home against the Chiefs side, which is not necessarily full strength, but although it is a very good side. I will just mention that the Carter, the Sevens player, is back on the wing, and also Samislani Tekiaho makes his return to the starting 15 after a long injury layoff, so that's really exciting. Then for the second game on the Saturday, you've got Moana Pacifica playing against the Hurricanes. RD Sevilla goes up against his old side, and that is going to be a sweet homecoming event for him. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of banter in the group chats leading up into this game. Overall, the Pacific side is looking pretty settled, although there are some welcome inclusions like Lalamilo coming back from his concussion, being hit by Hunter Paisami there in round 2. So he's going to add some punch and some excitement and also some speed into the midfield, where Danny Tuala was playing number 12 last week. And then you've also got Pellegrini shifting into the 10 jersey with Jackson Gardner-Basham shifting back into the reserve playmaker spot. And overall, I think the Moana Pacifica side is looking pretty settled and looking pretty good. So they're going to be wanting to think that this is an opportunity for them to really take it to the Hurricanes. Vice versa, on the other side, Hurricanes welcome back Ruben Love. He was touted for a massive All Blacks breakout year last year, but injury crueled him of that opportunity, and so he is going to want to come back and show his form early. Putting him at 15 is super exciting because he is a deadly runner with a wicked turn of pace, and it's going to be really exciting to watch a really good player coming back from injury. It's always exciting to see them on their comeback story. You're also going to have a look at Inari, who starts at number 9 ahead of Cam Roigard, who shifts back to the bench alongside his co-captain Duplessis Karifi, who also switches back to the bench. So this is the opportunity for the Hurricanes to believe that they've got an opportunity to give some more minutes to some players who haven't been playing as many minutes, and you've got the strong bench options there as well. So they're not taking this game lightly. They're just making sure that they're getting some good squad rotation in when they can. That's also Xavier Numia shifting back to the bench as well. He will add some impact from the Pine. So overall, I think this is going to be a really close game. I don't think necessarily the Hurricanes have the game to blow the Moana out of the water at this stage of the season, but I do believe that it is going to be a tough battle, especially in the forward pack, and the two backlines are electric, so them going head to head, but I do see the Hurricanes taking this one out. The final game on the Saturday, but not the final game on the round, because there is a Sunday game this weekend, and that is the Waratahs hosting the Western Force, and a doubleheader with the Super W teams as well, or Super Women's Rugby actually, as it's now more so called, Super Rugby Women's, and then for that game, you're looking at some big shifts in the Waratahs camp, almost is a Wallabies camp, really. You've got Tane Edmonds shifting back to the bench for Lawson Crichton, the new Reds recruit who goes straight into the number 10 jersey. You've got Joey Walton shifting to number 12 for the injured Lalakai Fageti, who I believe has a groin complaint. Henry O'Donnell, the debutant last week, who played very well against the Drua, keeps his spot at number 13. And you've got Andrew Kellaway still there, as Joseph Akuso Suoli is still out with that toe injury. Now, in the forward pack, it's looking pretty settled, but actually it's no Miles Amatamacero. He's been dropped out of the side completely. I'd hazard a guess that it's probably a discipline thing from last week. He was pretty lucky not to get a card. And then you've got Grant from the Hurricanes coming over and supplementing that second row spot. So overall, it's looking like a really good side with Tom Lambert on the pine instead of Isaac Aiedo Kailea. And you've just got to be loving to see Tristan Riley in the jersey 23, so he can add some real punch and spark off the bench should things be needed later in the game. For the Western Force, they're looking rather settled. They welcome back their captain, Jeremy Williams, in the second row. He's going to be a good addition. Sam Carter played really well last weekend, but Darcy Swain and Jeremy Williams are building an extremely nice partnership. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but you've got a rearrangement in the back row. So Nick Champion de Crepney, who played incredibly well at 6 last week, shift back to 8. Will Harris comes in at number 6, and Reed Princep, who played number 8 last week, goes to the bench. You've got a pretty relatively settled back line, although you've got Sia Tompkinson, the Highlander, coming into the number 13 jersey with Reshan Pazitoa shifting back to the bench with a 5-3 split with Isaac Fines, Lele Wassa retaining his spot in the reserve halfback jersey, and Max Bury alongside of him as well. As for a prediction, the Western Force are going into this game absolutely the favourites. They've been playing sensationally beautiful rugby. They've nailed a lot of their detail, and the Waratahs, despite having a really powerful scrum, which may be the difference maker, have been looking rather static, clunky, and not as a well-oiled machine. So I think that the Western Force actually will take this in Sydney. And the final game of the weekend is the Reds travelling across the Tasman to take on the Crusaders in Christchurch. This is going to be the real first test for the Reds in regards to the actual New Zealand-based sides. I know that they've played Moana Pacifica, but this is going to be the real first test that they've had from a Kiwi side, which is extremely exciting. On the Red side, you've got, welcome back, Alex Hodgman into the propping stocks, which is an experienced campaigner, which is very much welcomed. In the second row, you've got Josh Canham and Ryan Smith, some dynamism and some workhorse power there. In the back row, you've got the 3 Banditos back together again. Liam Wright back into his starting number 6 position, which he played so well last year after a long injury layoff coming from the first Wales game for the Wallabies, where he captained that side. And it's just going to be great to see him alongside Fraser McWright and Harry Wilson. That is a world-class back row. So they are going to have to, the Crusaders are going to have a handful containing all those different skill sets and those 3 players as well. Harry McLaughlin-Phillip gets promoted to the number 10 jersey with Tom Liner shifting back to the bench. This is probably just more of a rotation thing than a form thing, more so than anything, because I thought that the Reds looked better organised and better structured with Tom Liner on in the first half last week against the Force in Perth. Then Dre Pakiho, the debutant last weekend at number 12, keeps his position alongside a new centre pairing along with Filippo Dangunu, who shifts in one. He's extremely good at number 13. His physicality and also his ability to get over the ball is a great asset to have there in the 13 channel, especially if there are no forwards around from the Crusaders. You could expect him to get a couple of pilfers throughout the game. On the wings, you've got young Tim Ryan, and you've also got, I have now completely blanked who's on the other wing. Lockie Anderson? Maybe it's Lockie Anderson. Double check that for me just in case. And then a fullback, you've got... Who do you have a fullback? Why am I blanking so hard on this team? I'll whack them up in the comments. I'll whack it up right here. I'm so sorry that I'm blanking on that. I do not have the teams in front of me. This is going purely off memory and what I've thought about. I think for the Crusaders, it's really exciting because James O'Connor, they've got a swathe of maroon red inside that bled red camp of the Christchurch team, with James O'Connor getting to play his old side. He's on the pine, he's on the bench in jersey 22, but nevertheless he will see minutes against probably Tom Liner, who's spent a lot of time tutoring and taking under his wing and teaching him a lot of things. So that's going to be a cool matchup between apprentice and master if you're a bit of a Star Wars nerd. And I think also across the side they've got pretty settled side, really. They've got Cody Taylor to Mighty Williams in the front row. They've got Barrett. They've got Shalfoon, second rows. And you've also got, of course, Ethan Blackadder. Number 9, you've got Preston, the guy who absolutely busted out on his debut, scoring a hat-trick. Tahe Kamara, the young number 10, keeps his position there. And in the centres, you've got Captain David Hartvili alongside Dallas McLeod, who comes in. Severus and Will Jordan on the wings and fullback, respectively. It is going to be a hell of a day alongside Shafiyaki. It's going to be a hell of a game and a hell of a way to wrap up the weekend. I cannot wait, but I think in this instance, the Reds have been scoring the most amount of points per game, and I think that they have the quality of side, despite the injuries, to be able to win this game in Christchurch away. They did it last year, so maybe not as, and it's the same group, so maybe not as much of a hump for them to get over mentally. So that's really exciting. And a quick mention also, Jeffrey Tuamanga-Allen comes back on the bench, which is extremely important for the fortunes of the set piece, particularly the scrum, for the Reds throughout the game. But yes, I do think that Reds will take this game in Christchurch. But there you go, guys. There's my wrap. Please, I want to chat to you guys in the comments. Let me know what you think about the sides. Let me know what you think about the selections, the tactical picks. Who would you have where, if you would have any changes. And then, as always, please like and subscribe. The subscribe is extremely important so that I can reach more viewers like yourselves who are mad rugby lovers. But until the video, which I'll do on Monday, this time, not on the Sunday, because I'm having some special guests along on that video, which I've had to rearrange the timetable for, and also because there's a Sunday match as well, so give me a little bit more time to digest and break everything down. But nevertheless, thank you guys so much, and enjoy the weekend of rugby, and until then...